Good morning, everyone. There's a riddle. Who is a palindrome, the son of a palindrome? And the answer is David, King David, ben Yishai, the son of Jesse. David in Hebrew, and Yishai in Hebrew, both could be read forward and backward. Well, in this week's Torah reading, we have a special reading in honor of the month of Adar, which is the section of the half shekel that the Jewish people were commanded to give for the building of the Mishkan. And the Torah says, V'natenu, and they shall give. And the 5 letters of V'natenu can be read forward and backward like a palindrome. And therefore the message is that when you give, it always comes back to you. As the saying goes, what goes around comes around. Now, why do we read the section about the half shekel this Shabbat? Because it's the Shabbat before Rosh Chodesh Adar, in the month in which we will celebrate Purim. And our rabbis tell us that when Haman or Haman offered to give King Achashverosh 10,000 silver talents for the right to murder, to kill all the Jewish people, and King Achashverosh says to Haman, you don't have to pay me, that's free of charge, you could go ahead and wipe out the Jewish people. God said to Haman, you will not succeed. Why? Because you think your coins will bring about the destruction and the annihilation of the Jewish people. The Jewish people already gave silver coins, shekels, for the building of the Mishkan. And therefore their coins that were given with love for the temple, for a mitzvah, will now stand up and counteract your evil coins that are given with hatred. And the message is that every good deed is preserved, even for many generations. Like in the story of Purim, which happened close to 1,000 years after the Jews gave the shekels for the tabernacle. But God says the good deeds of the ancestors of the Jews who gave the half shekels will now come and protect and defend the Jewish people. On October 7th, when the tragedy of the Hamas attack occurred, there was an IDF soldier who was now married and living in Brooklyn in Crown Heights, actually a rabbi with a wife and 6 kids. And when he heard about what happened, he said to his wife, I'm not obligated to go fight because I no longer live in the country and I have 6 children, but I feel an obligation, a responsibility. And he got his wife's permission to go back to Israel to defend the Jewish people. He was a reservist and he served for 3.5 months. And then he was given 3 weeks off before he has to report back to duty. And so he called his wife and he said, I have 3 weeks off. I would love to bring you and the kids over to Israel. But they looked into the price of the tickets, and even with the discount that the soldiers get, it was more than he could afford, especially because he hadn't worked since October 7th. And so he said to his wife, you know what, I'll just get a ticket, I'll come home and I'll spend the 6 weeks with you and the kids before I have to go back. The night before he was going to return to Brooklyn, he went out with a friend to a restaurant to eat dinner. And someone said to him, you don't have to pay tonight because there's a visitor from the United States who is paying for all the soldiers tonight, for all of their dinners. He was very happy, they had a wonderful dinner. At the end of the dinner, he went over to this American Jew to thank him for the wonderful dinner. And when he went over to thank him, the fellow said, you know, why don't you order some extra food to take home to your wife and kids? And he said, I would love to, but my wife and kids are back in New York. I actually I'm on reserve, break now for 3 weeks, and I'm going home to visit them. And he says, well, why don't you bring your wife and kids to Israel for the 3 weeks? And he said, I actually looked into it, but I couldn't afford to do that. The man says, call your wife right now and tell her to book tickets for her and the children. And he pulled out his credit card, and right there, the man called his wife and he booked 7 tickets and he put it all on his credit card. And then after he hung up, he said to him, where are you going to stay with your wife and kids? He said, I don't know. He said, I have an apartment here in Jerusalem. You could stay in my apartment. And I'm also going to give you money for the time you're here, for spending money for you and your family. Well, this soldier went ahead, and there's a video of him at the airport waiting for his wife and kids to come off the flight. And he has a good sense of humor, and there he is, this rabbi with a beard and tzitzis coming out of his IDF uniform. And he's holding a sign, and the sign says, soldier searching his wife and 6 children last seen 3 months and 25 days ago with 3 hearts. And you see his wife and kids come out at Ben Gurion Airport from the airport terminal, and they see their father, 6 little children with a wife. They're all with their backpacks, and they start running towards their father. And you see the father one by one embrace each of his 6 children and then his wife that he hadn't seen for close to 4 months. This is the story of the Jewish people. We all give, and we always receive in return. Everyone in their own way, whether it's the soldier who gave his service to the country, or whether it's the philanthropist who gave the charity to help the soldier be reunited with his family. We are all called upon to give, and the more we give, the more we will receive in return. Have a wonderful day.